This week on Capital Report, soaring gas prices.
Families need relief at the pump today.
You're all set. That'll be $94.
Is a call to suspend the state's gas tax the right move?
There are studies that show that gas tax suspensions don't actually mean real savings for actual drivers.
Don't even look at it. Go on, get out.
Plus, a tentative contract deal for thousands of state employees, but there are concerns about a bonus boost.
It certainly reeks of political patronage.
What, do you smell something?
Do I smell something? What am I, hard of smelling?
It shows a little bit of appreciation for people who got the job done.
I'm going to put you out on the floor full time.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Good, we're going to get you the blue shirt and the tie.
And is it time for shoreline communities to stop limiting public beach access to out-of-towners?
But if you say Fairfield residents should be able to park near the public access points, then I think Bridgeport residents should be allowed to as well.
Come on through. I'm Joe Public. Welcome to my beach.
Only 80 more days until summer. Capital Report starts now. Welcome to Capital Report. I am Tom Dutch. We are so glad you're spending part of this Selection Sunday alongside the coach, Joe Arasimowicz, former Speaker of the House. Joe, welcome back.
Glad to be back with my two favorite guys.
Along with Johnny Mack, former Senate Minority Leader.
Welcome back. Ready for St. Patrick's Day with my green tie.
Fairfield resident and beach guy.
Beach guy, love the beach.
All right, here we go, guys. So raise your hand if you Googled electric car this week. Anyone? I see McKinney nodding. Gas prices are through the roof. $5 a gallon could soon be the reality. I paid that yesterday. It's already for diesel, and now every lawmaker from Bridgeport to Basra has a solution. Republicans want to suspend the state's gross receipt tax on gas and eliminate the federal tax. That's 45 cents right there. Governor Lamont is ready to make something happen, but he just wants to pump the brakes and make sure it can be paid for. Listen to what Republican Devin Carney had to say. Watch this.
It's not going to make the price of gas go down astronomically, but we should not be profiting because of a war that Vladimir Putin is putting on the whole world. The state of Connecticut needs to take a break from this tax, albeit till July 1st or longer if need be, to help the people of the state of Connecticut.
So like I said, Governor Lamont is ready to get something done now, but he just wants to check the math on any plan before moving forward. Watch this.
But you got to ask them, how much does it cost? They don't have an answer to that. How would you pay for it? They don't have an answer to that. Those are all my jobs as governor. But I can tell you that we can sit down with the legislative leadership on both sides of the aisle. We've got some resources in the transportation fund. We're going to be able to make immediate relief for the folks at the pump. Let's sit down with the legislature. At least I can walk them through. This is what it costs us, $70 million a month. Let's say we want to do it through the end of the year. This would be our shortfall. We'd have to bond to make up some of the shortfall in transportation, or we do a shorter period of time, and that would mean we don't have to borrow in order to make our obligations.
So McKinney, in doing show prep for the show, I've seen you in front of Mike flags at gas stations many times during your Senate career, trying to do this.
Well, yes, in 2012, we Republicans called on capping the gross receipts tax. Democrats said no. People talked, put pressure on the representatives. Democrats agreed, and we capped the gross receipts tax. We tried to stop the hike in 2013. We were unsuccessful. Look, this needs to be done, and I am a little surprised by the governor's hesitation towards this. And quite frankly, I watched some of that press conference, Joe, with the Republican leaders. They knew exactly how much their plan cost, and they knew exactly how they were going to pay for it. So I'm surprised the governor isn't interested in doing something quickly. I think the Democrats are interested in doing something quickly. The matter is what we can do, and we get immediate relief for people who are struggling.
Look, it's the governor's job not to tell you what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. And it is all a mathematical equation. Let's remember, we have a special transportation fund that is going to be broke in 2024. We do have issues. I think we should do something. We've actually going to collect more money than we have budgeted. I think the governor's opening to it. But to just jump right in after a press conference, say, absolutely, we're going to pass it, isn't what we hired him to do when we elected him 3+ years ago. He's got to be deliberative. He's got to understand what the needs are, and he's got to come up with the exact dollar amount. And are the legislators going to be willing to cut out some of their pet projects to benefit folks at the gas pump?
Well, you know, everybody's been talking about we need to give people relief. tax relief, other things, and the question is what kind. This is something I think we can do immediately. People will see immediate relief at the pumps. That's going to help people. It's also going to have an impact on lowering some of the inflationary prices in grocery stores and goods and services, because you're going to be lowering the diesel fuel and the cost of getting products to Connecticut. I think it's a good idea. I think they need to do it. I think the governor needs to get on board quick.
I think sitting down with all the legislative leaders is the way to go. Hopefully it happens this week.
So, guys, a lot of people are blaming Democrats for not doing enough to stop the meteoric rise in prices. Republican gubernatorial candidate Bob Stefanowski is one of them. Bob was so upset he ignored the sticker on the gas pump about not using your cell phone and posted this on Twitter. Watch this.
You've got multi-billion-dollar budget surpluses in Hartford. What better way to use them to allow people to get by just a little bit easier and deal with the inflation and out-of-control gas prices? Do it now. Do it for the people of Connecticut. Thank you.
Joe, so you think he was pumping gas there or just taking
well, look, I mean, that would have given a whole new definition to a gubernatorial candidate going up in flames. I'm glad.
Bada boom.
I'm glad it didn't happen. Obviously, I would wish that on nobody. But look, it's sort of pandering to the public. We're all frustrated. We're more frustrated by what's going on in the Ukraine and what Vladimir Putin is doing. And we can have those discussions, but we can't just have reactionary politics. That's when we make our worst decisions.
Look, we're in the middle of a campaign for governor. This is what candidates do. It's certainly no more or less pandering than what the governor and Democrats are doing. This is what we do, right? I will say this, though. You would not have seen Bob Stefanowski do this 4 years ago. He's a very different candidate. And what struck me is that Dave Collins of the day, Dave Collins, who said, I want to vote for a Democrat for governor, said, I sat down with Bob Stefanowski. I was impressed with him. He knows the issues. He answered the Trump question for Dave Collins. And Dave Collins actually said, I may have to vote for this guy, and urged the Democrats to primary Ned Lamont. So I think this is a different Bob Stefanowski, and I think the campaign is on.
Well, look, I'd agree with you. And I think I said it to you earlier, that what I've seen in him out in the public is much improved over the last time. Now, the question is, what's going to happen when it comes into the delegates and going out and talking at town committee meetings? Remember, there was a couple videos that were released last year, or the last campaign, that he says some off-the-cuff remarks. He needs to be very careful, or, no pun intended, he may blow up on a gubernatorial candidate. It can't just be what he says, it's what he does.
And I think the benefit for the Republicans this year is it looks like there'll be no contest at the convention, there'll be no primary. He can go out and make his argument to the general public in the general election earlier than any Republican has had to do in a long time.
But the opponent is still going to be a governor that handled the COVID extremely well, a governor that is actually out talking to each and every person on a daily basis and being deliberative, not just doing the reactionary political type. He's a leader. He's not just a politician, but that's going to be at the ballot box too. All
right, guys, so last week the Lamont administration quietly reached a tentative deal with the state's employees union. Most of the details remain under wraps until it's ratified, but one piece of news that workers are being offered $3,500, I got to read that book, to try to hold off an impending wave of retirements coming on July 1st. And that's not sitting well with everyone. McKinney's laughing over there. You try doing this. Go watch this clip.
There's a real change in terms of how pensions are being determined going forward after July 1. There's a little additional contribution in terms of health care, and a lot of folks are taking a look at that. That's what we mean by the retirement cliff. That said, I have said we're going to allocate, almost half of the bonus to people who stay after July 1. You may say, oh, that's not good enough. They can still make more money otherwise. But it's one way of saying, look, some of the most important employees, we need them to stay, and this is one more incentive for you to stay.
It's one thing to negotiate a salary and health care benefits and a pension, but now we've added in bonuses for all state workers. And I'm not sure what the public policy behind that is, but I think it's a very dangerous practice. And it certainly reeks of political patronage.
All right, Joe, you've been through these negotiations before. $3,500, let's call that a bonus. I can read that.
Yeah, and look, it really is not a lot of money, but if you do the math out, the major change that's driving the retirements is the COLA change, right? If you don't retire before July 1st, your COLA is not guaranteed as is currently for our already retired workers. If you do the math out over a 5 to 10 years, it's probably about $3,500 because they're still going to get a COLA. But the issue is how many people are leaving at the state of Connecticut, what are the number is going to be. What is that going to do to the essential services? And I think at the negotiating table, I wasn't there this time, but I think at the negotiating table, it really was a conundrum for the governor. So offer them what they would have gotten anyways, see if they'll stay on a little bit longer, make up the gap in the COLA. It's not a political payoff.
Well, look, I don't know if it's enough money to keep people from retiring before July 1st who are going to retire. We'll have to see about that. And state employees, like the rest of us, have been hit by the Biden inflation, which is the highest in 40 years. They also get hit by high gas prices and the like. So giving them relief is okay. It might be over $140 million. What I disagree with is saying, hey, here's $140 million we're going to give to 40,000 employees in the state of Connecticut. But hold on, let's talk about relief. We need to make sure we can pay for relief for everybody else. What about the other 3.5 million people? Let's give them relief too.
I don't disagree, but remember, 6 out of 12 years, they took 0 increases. They were the ones that were going into work each and every day for the last 2-3 years when everybody else was. You had correctional officers, you have nurses, you have police officers, DOT, they were all going into work.
Yeah, no, look, I actually totally agree with that, but I just don't think you can say we're going to do something special for 40,000 people, but we're not going to take care of the other 3.5 million people who are really hurting and need some relief.
All right, guys, up next on Kelp Report, step aside, you D-listers. The GOP is bringing some muscle to the party in 2022. We'll explain that when we get back. Don't go away.